Head of Analysis and News. Good morning.
Good
Sandra,
morning to you, Bill. Good morning, everyone. I'm Sandra Smith. The balance of power shifting last night. Democrats taking control of the House for the first time since 2010. Meanwhile, in the Senate, Republicans expanding their majority, knocking off Democratic incumbents in several hotly contested races.
The people of Missouri have said, we believe in America, we believe in our future, and we are ready to fight for it. And I am ready to go to Washington and fight for you.
People of Texas rendered a verdict that we want a future with more jobs and more security and more freedom.
I know you want to keep this country moving on the right track. I think the entire country has heard Tennessee loud and clear.
I want to thank all Hoosiers for giving me a resounding victory, putting your faith in me, and I will not let you down. I promise that.
We didn't accept government incompetence in Tallahassee, and we're not going to accept it in D.C. I will not accept it as your new U.S. Senator.
So later this morning, President Trump holds a news conference. You'll see it live here in America's Newsroom. That's at 11:30. The Senate Majority Leader, Mitch McConnell, holds a press conference an hour prior to that. You'll see that at 10:30. Here's what he's tweeting about after last night's success. Quote, received so many congratulations from so many in our big victory last night, including from foreign nations, friends, that were waiting me out and hoping on trade deals. Now we can all get back to work and get things done. End tweet.
Meanwhile, we are still waiting on some official results from several key races. Arizona and Montana, the Senate races there, as well as governor in Georgia.
Okay, complete coverage begins now. John Crosshour is here in New York to take us through the analysis. Kristen Fisher's live in Missouri, but we begin with Peter Ducey live in Naples. And has the Democratic incumbent, as Bill Nelson conceded there, Peter?
No, Bill, we haven't heard from him yet since the results came in last night, although his campaign manager was quoted very late by some local outlets, including the Orlando Sentinel, and he said this is obviously not the result Senator Nelson's campaign has worked hard for. The senator will be making a full statement tomorrow, that's today, to thank all those who rallied for his cause. So, since Nelson hasn't quit yet, we wait to see if Florida is heading for an automatic recount. There has to be one if the margin is within 0.5%, and overnight it got within 0.5%. But Scott's lead right now is more than 34,000 ballots over Nelson. Bill.
So if Nelson does not concede, why did Governor Scott declare victory last night, Peter?
Bill, I was getting correspondence from inside the Scott War Room last night for hours. They were looking at the numbers. They thought that they won early, and Governor Scott grew confident enough in the lead that he just took the stage here in Naples at his victory party before any of the networks had called the race. And Governor Scott was not mincing words once he got up there, as though there could be any result other than him going to Washington as the next senator from Florida. He also did not speak about the returns like he was worried about a recount.
Now that this campaign is behind us, that's where we're going to leave it. At least the campaigns I've been involved in are divisive and they're tough. And they really actually way too nasty. But you know what? We've done this for over 200 years, and after these campaigns, we come together. And that's what we're going to do.
The polling averages in this state showed Scott and Governor-elect Ron DeSantis trailing Democratic opponents going into yesterday, so each of their wins could be considered big upsets. And at the end of Governor Scott's remarks here in Naples last night, they had a confetti cannon go off. And again, not something you do if you're worried about a recount.
Got it. Peter, thank you. Keep us posted. I know you shall. In Naples, thank you, sir. Sandra?
In Missouri, Republican Josh Hawley unseating two-term incumbent Democrat Claire McCaskill, handing the GOP another seat in the Senate. Kristen Fisher's live in St. Louis with the latest from there. Kristen?
Hey, Sandra, well, so much had been made about how tight this race would be. But, you know, in the end, it wasn't even really all that close. The Republican in this race, Josh Hawley, he beat the Democratic incumbent by nearly 6 points last night. Proof that Missouri's turn to Trump country in 2016 was no fluke.
I said from the very beginning that this was about defending our way of life. It was about renewing it for a new day. And tonight, the people of Missouri said we believe in that way of life. We believe it's not the past, it's the future.
Now, this was one of the most expensive Senate races in U.S. history. The incumbent tried to keep her seat on the ground that she was one of the last remaining moderate voices in the Senate. But it did not work. It was not enough to offset Hawley's message and the president's enthusiastic endorsement of him. Here's Senator McCaskill conceding in St. Louis late last night.
Believe it or not, I've really had to be kind of careful. Not anymore. I will be out there fighting with you. I am not going away. I love this state. I will continue to serve. In this audience tonight, there are candidates that will stand for election in this state and win. And I look forward to helping you, helping nurture the next generation of leaders for the values that we care about. And for now, it is good night, but it is not goodbye.
Now, until last night, Senator McCaskill had only lost one race in her roughly 20 years in politics. Now she's lost two, and Josh Hawley is heading to Washington to become the youngest member of the U.S. Senate. Sandra?
All right, Kristen Fisher, thank you.
Get some analysis now. Judge Krashauer crushes the numbers better than anyone. Political editor, National Review. How you doing, sir? I saw your piece today. Really interesting stuff. Think about where the Republicans gain, where Democrats gain too in the suburbs. This is more of a realignment, you say, than a blue wave. Go ahead and start there, Judge.
Yeah, Democrats won in places where President Trump is not particularly popular. They won back the House and the suburbs. But Republicans expanded their Senate majority. They could have as many as 54, 55 Senate seats because President Trump rallied his own voters, got Republicans to the polls, and in these conservative parts of the country, they turned out to expand Mitch McConnell's majority.
You conclude that voters want balance and not resistance. Why do you say that?
Look at some of the biggest progressive superstars: Beto, Stacey Abrams, Andrew Gillum. All lost. If you look at some of the seats that Democrats lost in the House, it was because they nominated candidates who were too far to the left of their districts. I mean, a lesson for Democrats going ahead to 2020 is you can't pick someone too far to the left if you want to take on President Trump and win.
Today you're writing about it's a good night for Trump's political clout, but you conclude it's not good for Trump's power. Explain.
Well, Democrats now control the House. That means a lot of subpoenas, potentially a lot of investigations. I don't think President Trump is looking forward to that, but he's got an expanded majority in the Senate, and all those states that he campaigned in, all those red state Senate races, Republicans won in almost every single one of them. That's good news for the president.
Think about the Kavanaugh vote. Think about the momentum that shifted toward the end of September and into October. Think about the three red state Democrats who announced there were no vote on Kavanaugh. Heitkamp, Donnelly, McCaskill, all lost.
Bill, I don't think it's a coincidence that one of the few red state Democrats who won was Joe Manchin, who supported Kavanaugh, and all the red state Democrats who opposed him all of a sudden saw their fortunes go downhill. That's a big sign for how Kavanaugh reshaped our political landscape.
All right, another thing. The results have profound lessons for Democrats going toward 2020. In what way?
I think the results show you can't have someone too far to the left. You have to find someone who can appeal to voters in the middle. In the governor's races, Democrats won. They won in Kansas, Bill. They won in Michigan, Wisconsin. They won by having moderate candidates who were on the ballot. In Georgia, Florida, Texas in the Senate race, they went a little too far to the left, and it hurt their candidates in those races.
And I think this is a question that's going to be talked about a lot for days and weeks and probably months to come. Did Washington, D.C. find a way to move toward a middle ground on some issues, or did the polarization of our nation's capital get greater as of last night?
You know, there's some good news in that the House, the Democrats elected a lot of moderates. So Nancy Pelosi is going to have to deal with her liberal wing of the party, but she also has some new freshmen that are a little more to the center. But it's going to be more gridlock in Washington. The Republicans are more conservative in the Senate now. Democrats are now having these very liberal committee chairs that are going to be taking power, calling for investigations. I don't think a whole lot will get done in Washington with a divided Congress.
Two more things here. Mitch McConnell talks in about an hour and 20 minutes. What is his message?
He's going to be very happy. I mean, I think Republicans in the Senate gained 3 or 4 seats. that went beyond McConnell's wildest expectations. He ran the table in a lot of these close red state Senate races. And, you know, in Indiana, Mike Braun won by almost double digits. The Republicans overachieved in the Senate, and McConnell has a lot to do with that.
11:30 Eastern, the president comes out. He's already been tweeting about congratulations throughout the night. What is his message today?
Likely the president is going to focus on the Senate a lot more than the House. He campaigned in the Senate races down the final stretch. He made a point of saying, I don't really have time to campaign for a lot of these House Republicans. It'll be interesting to see what he says about Paul Ryan. Whether
How come?
Well, does he blame Paul Ryan for losing the House? They certainly went after each other on the immigration issue.
A little bit about a week ago.
So the question is he magnanimous? Does he focus on the Senate results that are good for the White House, or does he sort of have a critical word for House leadership?
Interesting stuff. Thank you, Josh.
Thanks, Bill.
So many storylines, huh? We go on and on. Back over to Sandra now with more.